Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Portadown preview show. I'm Neil, and alongside me as always I have Dave Wiggins. Dave has become Portadown's resident Latin translator. In fact, I believe he's actually been offered a job at Portadown College as professor in the Latin department. So Dave, how are you?
Doing well, but you know what? I know you're making fun of me there, but I did study Latin at Kilgamain Junior High School for 3 years. And my Latin teacher was Mervyn Adamson, who went on to be an Irish League linesman. Big, tall Mervyn, black hair, very tall and thin, but he's kicking about Shamrock Park. Not now, but before all this carry on, he would still be at a match. But that's the long way of saying, yeah, I'm doing all right.
Oh, very good. You learn something new every day. So this week, we have a very special edition of the show. We have not one, but two very special guests for what we are calling, what was it you said, Dave? The Mid-Ulster World Series?
Absolutely, Mid-Ulster World Series, yeah.
So for the Mid-Ulster World Series between Portadown and Glenavon this week, we are joined by Paddy McNally. Paddy plays for Portadown, centre half. Paddy, thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
Good, Neil. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. I've watched the last few in the last few weeks, and they've been really good. So thanks for having me on.
Paddy, do you know the thing on our channel that has had the most hits out of anything was you and Conal doing the jokes and the FIFA cards away a couple of Christmases ago or something like that?
No way, seriously.
I think so.
The big man, some entertainment.
Also joining us today, we have Portadown legend Richard Clarke. Richard played 530 times for Portadown, scoring 50 goals, and was also part of the 2002 championship winning team, and also won 2 Irish Cups, as he is demonstrating in his unworn 1999 Irish Cup final shirt. Richard, we're absolutely delighted to have you on the show. How are you?
Thanks very much, man. I'm delighted to be here. Yeah, doing fine, and got the wee shirt out for a bit of nostalgia there, so there isn't a bit of sweat on it yet.
Is that a long sleeve as well, Richard?
It is, yeah.
Flip me, you would have been sweating and out of me.
It's dry me at the minute here, so imagine it when I was 17 trying to put it on, or 18.
Brilliant.
Birthed on it, so.
You see, that's the thing.
You're bound to love seeing that shirt, like.
Oh, I am, like the retro Tato logo as well. I actually went for the championship winning top that Richard would have been a part of that team. And I don't know how he's played in these, like the long sleeve, they're all extra large as well. Ridiculous.
The shorts in this the sleeves in this are actually really short for some reason.
Never take any chances they're going to be too small for anybody, so they buy them all massive for some reason.
Do they still keep the shirts as massive now, Paddy, or are they all tailored to each player?
This is just by chance. I didn't bring this down. I actually put this out to give the hall ball because I've actually had it since I got injured. So, because I went to the hospital, but I've got my shirt here, which is quite small. I think that's a large. So they're all quite fitted. But back in the day, as Richard said, they're all triple XL. So thankfully we don't have, especially me, I couldn't fill that out. I can barely fill a medium. So
triple XL, because the boys had to tuck them into their dungarees, you see, their denim dungarees.
They're very fitted. I obviously work in teamwear as well, like, so everything's like stuck to players now. So there's no excuse not to be in good shape when you're playing, or your belly will be hanging out of your shirt. So
I suppose here, now that we're chatting about the different shirts, this will be the opportunity, as always, Dave, to plug what we hope will be a yellow away kit for next season.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you want to hear about my shirt?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Right. So Chris Wright, who is our coach and analyst and style icon, as I call him on Twitter, he dropped a few shirts off on me today because I was talking to him yesterday. So this is 1993 Budweiser Cup final as worn by Dougie Bell. Right, so we beat Ballymena 3-1 in the final. We long sleeve number as well, really nice. But the story goes, Dougie Bell gave this to Chris. And then a lot of years later, they were out having a few pints with a few ex-players and Chris and his dad and a few others. And Chris had to go off to work. So he said to his dad, "Dad, can you get Dougie Bell to sign this on the number 1 on the back there? You know, black marker, nicely on the number 1. And when he got up the next day, this is where it was signed. So I think that was after a few pints. That's how it turned out. But that's a nice wee kit as well. We pattern in it and all.
Oh,
there we go. Anyway, come on, let's talk about football.
Right. Well, no beating around the bush. 2 games there last weekend against Ballymena, and obviously Tuesday night there against Coleraine. We'll start off with Ballymena. Dave, we'll start with yourself. What did you make of the Ballymena game? Obviously, we got beat 2-1. We were hoping that this would be our first home victory of the season, but unfortunately, it wasn't to be.
Wasn't to be. Probably the Ballymena match I was really disappointed with. Just to sort of they had lost 5 games in a row in February, and they came to Shamrock Park, and I sort of thought good opportunity to beat a sort of mid-table team and get 3 points on the board and maybe climb a place. So it was really disappointing that we got beat 2-1. Thought we were in the game. I thought in the end it was a smash and grab for Ballymena. Obviously Ross Redmond scored the goal and slid across the Met Steel stand, punching the air with no fans in it. But I think that's where maybe the Ballymena photographer was standing. I don't know, but that's I saw the photograph and that's what it looked like. But listen, he scored the goal. He was happy to get the winner. But my feeling is VAR would have ruled that goal out. But I don't want VAR involved in Irish League football at all. But the ball comes in. Ross gets a bit of a head on it. And then he holds Adam McCallum and Lee Bonus kind of by the scruff of the neck. And then when the ball comes in, he smashes it into the top corner. But listen, it was disappointing. They were over the moon to get 3 points at Shamrock Park, I have to say. But I went away feeling just a wee bit sickened, and I hadn't felt that way for a while.
Yeah, I was really hopeful for Saturday's game. But like we said last week, Ballymena on their day, they can beat anyone. So I think it's just one of them games. You sort of have to dust yourselves down and get on to the next one. Sam Ward scored an excellent goal. Paddy, what sort of impact has he had in the squad since he's came?
He did. What a finish it was too. I've only been up once a week at the minute because I'm injured, but by all accounts, in terms of what I've seen, and spoke to the manager about him as well, and he's a player. Obviously, he's very, very comfortable on the ball. He's very brave. He'll get on the ball and stuff and. Which is, every player's not like that nowadays, and he seems to be that type of player. So as you say, he's got great technique as well. And if he does have a couple, I haven't seen much of him, but what I have seen, I've been really impressed. And as you said, his finish was unreal the other day there. So here's hoping he can be a big player for us going forward.
Yeah. Clarkie's away there, but he'll maybe pop back on in a minute. The only thing I know about Sam Ward is he's vegan. I don't know if there's too many vegan footballers in the Irish League these days. Maybe there are. I know the young lads are looking after themselves quite well.
Oh, he's the only one I've ever heard of.
Is he? Aye.
Big time.
There you go.
But sure, listen, he's their own.
It was a tidy finish. That he sort of, instead of smashing it, it was a nice side foot volley, wasn't it?
Oh, great finish. Unreal. Such a hard technique. And was he outside the box? Am I right in saying was he outside the box?
He was, yeah.
Ridiculous finish. Unbelievable. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he seems to have slotted in very well. Oh, Richard's back. How are you?
Coming back now. Is
the
internet a bit ropey way out west, Richie? Aye.
Hang on, lads, I've lost the audio here.
That's okay. We can hear you now.
Derek's killed me here.
We can hear you now. All good.
Paddy, obviously Sam's came in, and there's been a few new faces that came in January there. And obviously we know you're recovering from your injury, but you've obviously been at some of the games as well. What do you make of the other players that have came in, the likes of Ben Tilney and Jacob Carney?
Well, Ben, we all know how good Ben is. I certainly do play with him at Larne. He's unbelievable. When I heard that he was available for loan, I was straight on the phone. Honestly, I would have drove to Larne and got him in a headlock. He was going nowhere else other than Portadown. What a player. Very, very comfortable on the ball. And I'm sure you've seen already in a few games that he's played. He just oozes class. So he does. So, I mean, that's no surprise to anyone, really, because everyone knew how good Ben was. I've been very, very impressed with Jacob Carney. Again, he's only a kid, but he's already been in loan non-league in England. In today's football, I mean, it's very, very easy for him to sit and maybe even train with Man United and stay and train at Carrington, but he wants to come out and sort of roll his sleeves up and play men's football. And see, since he's come in, he's made a hell of a difference to us. I think he's been excellent. I love how he commands his box, and for such a young lad, I mean, he looks like he's been playing the game at this level I'm talking about men's football, for about 5-10 years. He's really, really good. He's really, really impressed me. I'm just raging I can't get to play any games with him. So here's hoping we can get him for next season as well, and going forward. But yes, the two of them have been great signings. Sam as well, but the keeper's been, I think he's been excellent. Look, he's a Man United player, so he's bound to have something about him, and he's certainly showing that at the minute.
I've also been really impressed with Eamon Scannell. I think since he's come in, he's offered good width, and on top of that, like the balance on the left-hand side with him and Ben in front of him, we seem to be a lot more fluid down that side. I've been very impressed with him as well. What have you made of him?
Yeah, I think he's come in. He's done really well. He's settled well. Amo hadn't played any football there, obviously, all season. So I think to come in and perform the way he has done is a credit to him, and I'm sure he's kept himself fit, which it clearly shows. Amo's another player I played with a few years back when he came on loan, and I was at Carrick, and again, so much ability, and as you say, him and Ben complement each other quite well. He's got a lovely left foot. I've never heard anyone say anything about anything else other than they've got a lovely left foot. If you're a left footer, you're flying. But I think he's very good. I think he's good going forward. I think he's good on the ball, and I also think he's very good defensively. So, but he's also hasn't played many games this season. So I think he's grown in each game. So I think in the running he'd be a big player for us, definitely.
Richard, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you have rated your left foot?
By 3, I would say. Didn't score too many with the left foot, to be fair. Standing on, that was its job.
Left foot's for standing though.
Yeah.
I know, no, but you're right. Every time anybody's left footed, lovely left foot.
If you're left footed, you have a chance in football, don't you?
Absolutely.
Honestly.
Look a bit more graceful than the rest of us for somebody.
You've about 75% more chance of getting in any team than a right footer, to be perfectly honest.
Absolutely.
So moving on to Tuesday, we faced Coleraine up at the showgrounds. It's always been a difficult place to go. Richard, you have played up at the showgrounds many times over the years. Have you always found it a difficult place to go? Obviously, Portadown to beat 2-0. We'll get onto that in a moment. But to me, like the showgrounds, it's always been somewhere where there's always been good games, but it's always been quite difficult.
Yes, it's a tough place to go now. All through my career, probably had a mixed bag up there. We've won our fair share and lost our fair share as well. To be fair, they had always a good wee atmosphere up there. The Portadown fans coming down, and Coleraine had a decent following. So it was a place you always enjoyed going, playing your football, but it was tough at times. And they always had good players throughout the years. Maybe they're more, in my day, they were more of a cup team. But they always were around the mid table and pushing on, like, so there never was any easy games up there, and always likes of Paddy McAllister in the middle of the park and all. You had to be, if your wits about you could hit an elbow or something. But they're flying at the minute, so that the match on Tuesday, although it's tough to take, there was 2 penalties, and I think the referee's been renowned to give penalties against Portadown, which is disappointing. Like, it seems to be a common theme with him, but sometimes you just have to dust yourself down and get on with it. Coleraine is a good side and up near the top end, so it's always going to be tough to go there and get a result.
Yeah, well, we'll get straight to it then. The penalties. Who wants to go first, Dave or Paddy? Who's taking the lead here?
I'll go first. Paddy has to be careful what he says, like, to be honest.
All right, I'll be injured for all season. I can't get banned.
Oh, that's all right then. That's all right. No,
here,
listen.
Here, don't even say that, because knowing our luck, something we get
I know,
brought in. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Don't
so,
worry.
I know. Listen, big shout out to Ross Dunlop. He's obviously a favourite of ours. And referees get a hard time. But you know what? Rightly so. Quite often, rightly so. I just think a lot of the time, everybody in the stadium can see it. And the referee's standing 20 yards away, 10 yards away, and can't see it, you know. I was at the showgrounds last night, Tuesday night up the Coleraine. It was cold, I can tell you. But there wasn't one person shouted for a penalty in among their directors or stewards or anything like that. And when you see it in slow motion, you know, it hits Greg in the thigh and bounces up and hits him there. So it hits his thigh, it hits him there. He doesn't know anything about it. And the referee gives a penalty. And for me, it has to be beyond a shadow of a doubt to give the penalty, you know. And it wasn't like it was against the run of play. And it's funny because, you know, when we drew with them there 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe it was only 3 weeks ago, I think we surprised them, you know, how good we were. And I sort of thought last night we weren't going to surprise them again. But actually we started on the front foot and we played really, really well. And it was a bit of a kick in the teeth when the ref gave that penalty. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't actually believe it. And then after the penalty, you know, we go on and probably only have ourselves to blame in some regards, because when you look back at the highlights, I thought there were more clear-cut chances in the first half, but there were sort of 2 half chances along with the 2 clear-cut chances. But, you know, you take those chances, you go into one at half-time, and really it's a very different game. So I suppose Coleraine are sitting second in the league because they've taken their chances, and possibly we are sitting 10th or 11th because we just haven't taken a good ratio of those chances that come along, you know. And that's not to take anything away from our players. Just sometimes it goes for you and sometimes it doesn't. But last night it definitely went for Coleraine. But not to peeve off any Coleraine supporters, but I actually seen them 3 times now. At Shamrock Park early in the season, they were good against us, but the twice we've played them at the showgrounds, they haven't been exceptional for me. So for them to be sitting second in the league, it's actually quite surprising. And they're obviously punching above their weight because they're a part-time team mixing it there with full-time setups and all that. But I think they're currently punching above their weight, you know. But we'll see how it goes the rest of the season. Disappointed them, yeah. And then the second half, of course, they get another penalty. Bradley comes on with, 20 minutes to go. It's one of those ones in the box where the 2 players have got their arms beside each other, and Bradley does not even a natural-looking fall to the floor. He basically goes one way and throws himself on the ground. The referee blows the whistle. And everybody in the stadium was just like, flip me, can't believe he's given that as well. So that's my synopsis of the match. I thought we played quite well in periods of the game. We didn't deserve to lose 2-0, but it is what it is.
yeah, I thought the first half particularly we had some really good chances. I think the second half was a bit more even, but you know, on the whole, I was disappointed last night as well that they didn't come away with something. Paddy, over to you. You sound like you have a lot to get off your chest, but I don't want to push you too much. So it must be frustrating, you know, if like you play defense, and you know any defense is given their all to try and, you know, stop the ball and stuff, and then like what happened to Greg Hall last night, I thought was ridiculous, especially the first penalty. I couldn't believe it. The second one I thought was soft as well. As a defender, do you feel nowadays that these are getting like not so much like protection, but maybe most decisions nowadays are going against defenders? It seems to be now even touch somebody with a finger, you have a penalty given against you.
Yeah, I mean, you say Greg Hall's so unlucky. Big Finnow's another one. Like the amount of penalties they've given away that aren't even penalties is ridiculous, right? So if you actually were the first time we played Coleraine, within the first 10 minutes, I can't remember what it was exactly, but Greg gives another one away, which again, the guy was I think it was Doherty, he was 2 yards from him, and he blasts the ball in his hand. What are you supposed to do there? I mean, you're now having the block shots with your hands like this, and it's so unnatural. So yeah, I mean, Greg was harshly done by. The thing that, you know, obviously the positive out of it, and the thing that pleases me most is we're going away to Korea, and Korean are second in the league. Despite where we both are in the league, we're competing with the best teams. I know you boys have mentioned it in this previous show before. We can't compete against the best teams, and we're going away to Korean and we're competing against them. What I don't like is when incompetent referees you're basically 2-0 down because he's given away 2 penalties that are nowhere near a penalty, right? So if you are going and the boys are sticking to a game plan, which they do, and they're playing well and they're competing against a top side, because Korean are a good side, let's not forget it. If we take a point away, that's not a bad point for me. That's a great point. And I know it's not as simple as this, but 2 bad decisions, the game's 0-0, we get a point. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to say too much, but what I will say is I'm not surprised at the decisions, and I think that says it all, really. Really, really disappointing to lose a game in that manner. If we go out and we're outplayed or outperformed, then we'll hold our hands up and we'll be held responsible for that, and there's nothing you can do about that. If I go out and play brutal on Saturday, I don't play the next week. The manager potentially has a pop at me. You know, you're dug out as players, we dig each other out. Who do the referees answer to? Who are they accountable to? Do they come out and give an interview and explain the reasons behind these? By the way, what I will say is it's a thankless task at times being a referee, but it's the honest referees who actually speak to you on a level. You don't mind if they make mistakes. You certainly don't want to give them a hard time if they do. It's honestly, I've had enough of it. It's happening too often, and our standards as players, especially us, the league's only getting better and better, and we're one of the part-time teams, and even to stay in the mix there, to even compete with these teams is getting harder and harder, and we're doing that. I just think the referees need to be held accountable as well. I think it's really harsh on players at times and teams. And look, Tippy comes out and he fronts up every win, lose or draw. He's a manager of football, but he has to come out and front up. We have to take responsibility for our actions. All I want to know is when the referees do things like the other night. I mean, who are they accountable to? Are they going to referee? Is Ross going to referee on Saturday again? I'm not. But what I'm saying is, there doesn't seem to be any sort of, now, listen, I don't know, and I could be speaking out of turn here, but I would just like to see a bit more accountability, and I would like to see them come out and answer a few tough questions that we have to as players and managers.
Yeah, accountability is the word, Paddy. Definitely accountability. Richard, for the second penalty, Owen Bradley, very, very experienced player, well known in the league. He's getting on. He must be near my age, like, and he. But is there something there about a wee bit of experience where he used his experience to win? Did you see the highlights from last night?
I didn't see the highlights. So I read a few of the reports. Just
he sort of
one around the block, like, and he has great upper body strength, like, and he wants to get into a physical battle, like, and you've seen throughout the last few years the amount of free kicks he wins around the right areas and all, like, so.
Yeah,
it's just sometimes it's frustrating as a defender. I'm sure, that the minimum contact these boys go down, and it's getting tougher and tougher. Like, the defender should be right up against the strikers, right under behind him, making sure he's not going to get turned and get a shot.
Yeah,
and the minimum contact, you throw yourself down. Like, it is frustrating. Just what Paddy was saying there, the accountability. Like, some of these boys, it seems like they're being assessed by their own friends and mates. Are they ever going to be critical of them? And be honest and straight down the middle and tell them what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. As you say, is there any repercussions whenever they're making obvious glaring mistakes week after week?
Yeah.
And
season after season as well.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I mean, as you say, Clarke, I mean, if you receive the ball in the box and turn, score, and I'm meant to be marking you, managers scream his head off at me. If I go tight to you and any sort of contact is a penalty. So how do you win it? I don't get it. That's my point in it. But look, Big Skinner, he's the best in the league at it. And actually, that's what's even more surprising, because the referee should know and be aware of the players that he's there. He's there, probably refereed Korean a number of times. He's seen Bradley play. I mean, what he does, by the way, I've played with him as well. He's an absolute dream to play with, but a nightmare to play against. He's an excellent player and very, very good at what he does. But you should know what he does is he feels for that contact, and the slightest touch he goes down. And as I say, you know, it's a dream to play with, but it's an absolute nightmare to play against. I just think last night, I mean, I feel so sorry for Greg. What's he done there?
Well, Bradley's trapped Greg's arm under his arm and then thrown himself down. Literally, it was, and in some ways you admire it because he's won a penalty and scored a goal, but it's a friggin' sickener, like. No doubt.
It is, but listen, ultimately he's won a game for his team. I know he didn't take a penalty, but
yeah,
it's just one of those things. And I've had a wee bit of a rant there, but we
got it off your chest rightly there. Anyway, Neil, I think it might be a good time for my weekly feature, which is Dave picks a new club motto. Is that all right?
Is it going to be in Latin?
Of course, it has to be.
Good, man.
You can't have your club motto in English. It has to be in Latin. But anyway, this week it's going to be "That was never a penalty," and in Latin that is "Non enim poena ed fruit." There you go. And it sounds like this. It sounds like this. Hold on now. There you go. You learn something new every day. But that was never a penalty. I think is a good motto for this week.
Your man on your phone there always sounds French. I think the referees, they do have a thankless task, but it is frustrating whenever you don't get rub of the green. And I don't think Portadown have been getting the rubber green this season at all. I did a bit of digging last night, and I think I'm pretty confident I'm right on it. Answers on a postcard, please. Who's the only Irish League team this season not to be awarded a penalty?
Would that be Portadown Football Club?
Got it in one. Yep.
Good, actually. Yeah. I didn't realise we haven't had a penalty yet.
Yep.
Maybe we should sign Owen Bradley in the summer.
Maybe the referees will watch us here preview show and we'll start getting a few.
We'll definitely get one.
Here, well, hopefully next week we'll maybe have the motto in Latin for thankfully we finally got a penalty. Right, we'll leave Coleraine in the rear mirror then. Coming up this weekend and next Tuesday is a double header against our Middlesbrough rivals Glenavon. Richard, you have played in some humdingers against Glenavon over the years. Any particular memories you're very fond of playing against them?
We didn't actually in my time end up playing each other in any like finals or semi-finals that I can remember of. Like, but I suppose the most of my career was throughout the 2000s, and at that time, to be honest, I can barely remember getting beat by Glenavon. That's without joking. You know, we seemed to dominate them that decade or whatever. I remember an Irish Cup match. I was suspended for it. Andy Hamilton scored the winner at Shamrock. But other than that, it's all good memories, to be fair. We give them a few spankings in their time as well. And Big Vinny leading the line during that always seemed to score against them. So
it's funny because we're in the 2000s, Glenavon are kind of where we are now, you know, at that sort of slowly building again, you know. Sure. And we definitely beat them a lot in the 2000s, and happily so, you know. Was there any particular Glenavon midfielder that you loved to battle with?
My memory's terrible, to be honest.
I know it didn't matter who you were playing against; it was always a good battle, like. But I just wondered if there's any person that sticks out in your mind as.
You would need to name me a few that played in that decade to see refresh my memory.
No, don't even know.
Not too many bangs to the head.
I know. No,
I'll tell you a funny story about Richard and memory. Now this is going way back. You won't remember it, like, but it's funny. My dad was talking about it there last night, and many moons down, and was in the change room, and you know, Richard was there, and I always remember going up and getting the autograph book signed and all, got a picture and stuff, absolutely delighted. And then when we came outside after, realised it said, "To Lee from Richard Clarke." He called me Lee.
Sorry, but I picked it up wrong.
That's that Carrick accent again coming out, you see?
Yeah, so my dad's going to try and hook out that autograph book because he has it somewhere, like, so. Yeah, it was always a funny story from back in the day. Speaking of Glenavon games, then Paddy, you played at the opening game of the season there at Warmview Park against them. I don't think many people give us much of a shout going into that game. What was the mindset of the players going into that game? And then obviously we got a fantastic result.
Yeah, I mean, because it was the first game of the season, and we've been so long without football. There was such a buzz about the place, and the lads, you could really sense it, if you know what I mean. I just knew getting in. See, when you meet, we actually met up at Shamrock, had a bite to eat and whatever else to get changed because of the whole situation in the change rooms anyway. So anyway, we made our way there. But see, from the minute you got there, you just knew we were going to get a result that day, or at least play well. Again, I just thought we worked extremely hard, like in terms of like, if you can remember, like the first 20 minutes, half an hour of that game, like we probably didn't have a lot of the ball, but our shape was so good, and when we did have it, we were very effective and went forward with it right away, which obviously that's how we got our goals. But like, I think it was even like as much as I only signed the previous season, you knew how big that was for like Portadown supporters who have been out of the league for like 3 years or whatever. And you were the one like sort of carrying the can, and you could bring a smile back to a few faces, and they're the sort of games that you can do that with, derby games obviously, and Mournview as a pitch is excellent. The pitch was brilliant. It was Friday night, it was on TV. I mean, if you can't perform in them games or can't get yourself up to perform in them, then you're struggling. So it was a really good win, and obviously it's only one of our 2 wins this season. So here's hoping we can repeat it on Saturday and Tuesday.
I feel like we sort of surprised them. They probably thought, Portadown Championship just up, but we really surprised them. And I think the formation worked that day, and I think we more or less hit them on the break 4 times, Paddy, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, that was it. As I said there, we didn't get the ball. Like, I thought we were very disciplined. I thought the game plan was spot on, really. Glenavon, they're a good side. They're really good players, like a lot more experience than we have as well. So I think to score 4 goals away from home, I mean, it says all you really need to know. Like, it's probably a complete performance from us. Very, very disappointed in the goals we conceded. I thought they were sloppy, but listen, scoring 4 goals, you're bound to win the game, like, and we did. So
yeah, it was class. It was disappointing that we Portadown fans couldn't be there. I know Glenavon fans were there, spread out, but it was just brilliant. Like, and we had watched it. A couple of us in our bubble had gathered to watch it and have a few drinks and all that, and it was just flipping class. But before Aaron Burns scored the 4th goal, because it was 3-2, and it was sort of getting to the end of the match, and we were all starting to get a bit bum twitchy, as you do, like, and it was getting on, but I could see a couple of the boys had looked at their phones, and before Aaron Burns had scored the 4th goal, they had got a wee notification on their phone to say we'd scored a goal. So I've got a video, because it came up with mine. I've got a video of like just all the boys waiting, and the ball goes through and Aaron Burns bangs it into the back corner, and it was just class. Like, after so long, even not being there, it was still that great feeling of beating your local rivals. I don't care. Yeah, I don't care if they're flying or if we're flying, or to beat them at any stage, 90s, in the 2000s, it means the same every time. It's bragging rights at the end of the day. Glenavon fans give us stick because the only thing we ever say to them is, have you ever seen your team win the league? And there's not too many Isle boys sitting in the Gala stand who have. But you can say you're only as good as the last Mid-Ulster derby, and in the last one, we tanked 4-2, and I've been living off that for about 5 months. Now that I've said it, I've realised we're playing them twice in 4 days, and I'm getting a bit nervous because they could beat us twice, but we could go and beat them twice. It's going to be good. And listen, I'm only taking the piss calling it the Mid-Ulster World Series because I hate American sport, but I just think it's ridiculous that we're playing them twice over a long weekend. I don't remember it ever happening before. In the league, playing two matches at home against your local rivals. And even the other fixtures, like Glenavon played Carrick on Tuesday night for about the third time in like 9 or 10 days as well. So there's something going on with the fixture computer there. I think it's not good. Richard, we've never played Glenavon twice that close together, have we?
I can't remember, to be honest. There probably was occasions maybe you had a cup match after a league game, but 2 league games in a row. I actually seen that Glenavon game earlier in the season, like, and there was a great tempo to the team and all, and thought we were going to push on well. It's been a bit tougher, but that's the way it goes. Like, you can see improvement year on year, and this year now with the relegation going, there's a wee bit of pressure off, especially with a young team. It's less pressure on, and you can go and try and express themselves, hopefully, the rest of the season and enjoy it, and still want to try and push and get results, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I remember early on in my career, we were fighting relegation, with a pretty young team. We still had the likes of Strainer, Alfie, and Greg there. They were getting near the end of the days. I remember having to beat Oma the last day of the season to stay up, before we're only done another one of them rebuilding jobs. Like, so it is tough when you're bogged down there, but they don't really need to look at the table now. Just keep playing, try and get to. Like, I know from seeing Matthew before, his teams at Warren Point, he likes to have a method about his teams, and try and work in different phases and things to do. Like, and that takes time to build that and get the players used to that. So hopefully this year will give them that, the opportunity to keep working on that. And if you see that improvement year on year, that's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. I noticed I'm not a good tactician, but he was more or less 4-4-2 last night for the first time in a long time, Paddy, which was a bit of a change. So I think with that on the armour too, Gary Hamilton's not going to know what formation they're going to be playing against on Saturday, so there's a good variety there. I think, sometimes it's 3-3-2, I don't know. I honestly, sometimes it's like a 3-3-5-1 or a 3-2-3-1.
I think
it's modern football, but I don't know what the numbers are like.
I don't even look at formations. I just go into centre half and head the ball.
You don't need to.
But I think it's every manager this year. They're getting really, really tested. It's personnel, suspensions, people having to isolate, people missing games. I mean, I suppose you can't play the same system all the time if those players that you had in those systems might be injured, they might be isolating, they're missing games for various reasons. But I think this season's just been strange. But as you say, Tippy does, he thinks about it, he goes into it a lot, and he never does anything without a real thought process behind it. So as you say, God knows what system we'll play here on Saturday, but as long as we get a performance and a result, hopefully.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because I saw his post-match interview last night, and he was saying he can't even prepare for the game on Tuesday because obviously you got to look at Saturday first, but the fact that they're playing each other is he can't even think it's Tuesday now, because depending on how Saturday goes, so he might have to completely change it. Whereas if it was say you were playing Glenavon on Saturday and then Glentoran on Tuesday, you can prepare in advance for both games. But it's a strange one. He's going to have to see how Saturday goes, and then, well, if we do get a win, do you change it up or whatever? Because obviously they're going to be trying to second guess each other on the Tuesday night. So it is a strange one. It's not very often you get drawn twice at home, against the same team. It's unprecedented times. I mean, I'm always confident and positive, when it comes to the teams. So fingers crossed, it would be great. I don't like to get a win. We are looking for that first win at home. I don't think they could come any better than beating Glenavon, to get that first win. And I know we've been saying this for weeks. Is it going to be this week? Is it going to be this week? And it hasn't came, but eventually it is going to come. Hopefully this season. So,
hopefully this season, or hopefully this week.
Well, hopefully, no. Well, I was saying it's eventually going to come, but hopefully it does happen this season. Like, hopefully it's this week. But yeah, no. Just praying, please let this be the week that we can do it. Like, but Glenavon are, to be fair, they're
they're a bit Jekyll and Hyde, but on their day they can beat anyone. They've demonstrated that. And in fact, they're unbeaten in 6 games now. Right. So they are on a half decent run as well. So you wouldn't know which Glenavon will show up, but fingers crossed it's the not so good Glenavon this weekend. But I'm sure they'll be up for it, and especially after what happened in the last game. Where we went there and we beat them at their own game, to be honest. So fingers crossed.
What I'm hoping for is, on Saturday, we're 1-0 up against them, 85th minute. There's a bit of movement on the bench. Gary Hamilton squeezes into his number 88 Glenavon top, comes on to try and throw himself around, and before he does anything, the referee blows the whistle, and we're celebrating 3 points. That's how I see it going down. Like,
listen, just as long as a win, that's all that matters. Like, I don't want any 1-0s last minute. You're hiding behind the sofa, biting your nails and stuff. I just want to win.
Paddy, do you think players who have come in maybe on loan from England and stuff, and even younger lads in our team from Northern Ireland, do you think they understand, even in the current climate, how important it is, like a mid-Ulster derby?
I think they have to be honest. I don't think there's any other way about it, to be honest. I didn't grow up a Portadown supporter, but I've been there now nearly 2 years, and I know what it means to the club. I just think it's one of them games where, as I mentioned before, it's a derby. I mean, you have to go out and first and foremost. I mean, you two are big supporters, Neil and Dave, obviously, but I mean, I'm sure you should be happy enough of us players went out and just emptied the tank and tried our hardest. All right, we're obviously, every footballer makes mistakes or whatever, but especially in games like this, just go out and run yourself into the ground. And if you do that, every football game, if you win the ball, you have a real chance of going and win the game. But I think a derby's even more so. Go out and win your individual battle, and as a team, it's just one of them ones. It's a derby. I can't even put words to it, but you just have to go out and be better than who you're up against. Really, it's very, very easy for me to sit here and say that, but listen, that's how football's a simple game. You don't need to complicate it.
Yeah, wonder do away goals count this weekend or? No, two homes. Two homes. I know.
I said, Richard, you mentioned there, about there being no relegation, and does that, sort of mean that there's less pressure, whatnot? I have a few questions here for the periods that have been fired in. So one was fired in by Strathnockham Ports, and it's a question for all concerned here. So looking to the future for next season, when relegation is back, which areas do you think we could maybe improve on, maybe strengthen? Paddy.
Centre back. I'm only joking.
Paddy, this one you'll know most about. What will the players' mentality be, for next season? Obviously, no relegation now. There's going to be another year's experience under the belt. Do you stay with the same approach? Hit me, guys. What do you think? What way we do for next season?
I think, as you say there, there's no relegation. I don't like us that there's no relegation and all, but listen, it is what it is. Look, I think you have to have real pride in who you're, first and foremost, yourself, who you're playing for, who you're representing. It can seem a bit false at the minute. It can seem like you're playing reserve football at times because there's absolutely no fans in. So I think they actually motivate yourself for games is more so, especially at Chamak. Last year, we were getting big crowds at the games, and I mean, you don't need motivation. That's your motivation there. I think this season, if the young players that we have play another 20, 30 games, they're going to be much better players for it. And you can clearly see what Tippy and the coaching staff are trying to do at the club. So, I mean, listen, I'm sure he'd bring in quality again in the summer, but I think come the end of this term, I can't remember how many games there is left, but I think we'll be in a much better place to then go and compete next year. And I don't mean that, don't misinterpret what I'm saying here. I just mean go and compete and be the best you can be. Listen, we're obviously on a journey, and we're probably, the first stage is to get out of the championship, and the second stage is probably to stabilise yourself in the Premier League. But you have to go out and try and win every game you play. As you say, it's a part-time league. I know there's 3 or 4 going full time, but you know, you have to have the belief that you can go and beat anyone. And you know what? I certainly wouldn't target anywhere in the table or anything like that. Just try and go out and win every week and see where it takes you. But look, see, to answer your question, I think, see the players we have at the minute, they get 30, 40 games under the belt again at Premiership level again. I think it only stands us in good stead going forward. And then hopefully Tippy doesn't sign any new centre halves and I can get back to the league.
Well, you know, you're talking there. There's actually a load of questions that came in for yourself, and it was pretty much all the same thing. How's the recovery going?
It's do you know what? Like, I actually seen the knee surgeon there like 3 weeks ago, like, and he was so impressed with how my knee's going. Like, I feel stronger. Like, I'm out every day walking and stuff. I know it sounds like it's nothing, but it's a big deal to me. Like, and I've now started rehab. I'm still in the brace, but I've started rehab with Chris, and you know, Chris is really he's top notch, like, at what he does, and I'm doing rehab every day, like, so like it's a long process for me. I'm in good spirits. I'm going seeing the boys in training. I'm going to some games when I can, when we're allowed to, obviously. So I'm dead on. I'm good. I'm absolutely got it, and I'm missing football big time. But as I say, I'll be back firing next season, hopefully.
Clarke, where are you on? Obviously, you've had a bit of management experience and all that since you stopped playing. And where are you on the whole? We're a young team, and you know, do you stick with that and let the team peak in 4 or 5 years, or is there anything that can be changed there, or anything to help the young lads?
I think like anything to do with football, typically I'll just be looking at what budget you have available, and then just trying to get, you know, you'll always want to try and improve the squad, and that's not putting other people out. It's putting the challenge down to them that to stay in the team you'll have to be better. So it's just who you can get on, getting people of the right character who want to come there for the right reasons. Like Portadown had big financial backers back through the years, and now they're rebuilding again. So you have to just stick with the model that's available there. Tippy has plenty of contacts. He'll look for the right players. But I think you'll be delighted that, as you say, another 30 or 40 games under the belt for the lads that came up and served them well so far. You know, they've seen the quality level that they need to reach for, and they know that they can compete with these teams. There's small margins, getting beat with penalties here and there. So they're not that far away. You know, sometimes it can only take 2 or 3 players come on and can totally transform a team, you know, and you know, every manager will be looking out for them players, and just getting the right fit at the right time can make so much difference to the team. Like, so I don't think there's going to be anything major. You have to stick with these young lads that have done well, throw in a wee sprinkling of experience here and there that's going to improve the squad. But like, we're heading in the right direction.
I think you touched on it there. I think the team's done really well. I would like to see us adding 2 or 3 players. But I think a lot of the young lads who are there will be in our team for a long time. And sometimes I think, you know, you could add in maybe 2 or 3 experienced guys who've been there and done it all as well. I think they can help them along. But it all comes down to money. You're right. You know, the budget that was there in the 90s and early 2000s just isn't there. And then when you compare our budget to Larne, Glentoran, even Linfield, you know, it's difficult to compete with that, maybe to improve. And that's no disrespect to anybody who's on the team. But yeah, I think sometimes that comes down to money. But I think it's healthy, the philosophy of bringing the young lads in and, you know, grounding them and giving them experience, because if they grow together as a team as well, and that creates that team bond, doesn't it, Paddy? You know, if they play together for 3 or 4 years, then hopefully that creates that camaraderie, which is a harder word to say than you might think.
Yeah, no, I think so. If you look at the teams that have been really successful and over the, you know, they don't sign 1 million players in the summer and go on and win the league. You know, these things, you know, you can't just throw money at things. I think the way we're doing it's the right way. I think it's the only way we can do it, really, as a club. But as you say, we had a great changing room first and foremost. I know Clarky mentioned earlier on, like you have to sign the right type of person as well. Like in our dressing room last year was incredible, and it still is. Do you know what I mean? It's a wee bit more difficult now. Like the protocols around COVID and all, and small things like it's stopping the boys like for gonna. And I know every team's in the same boat here, but I can only speak for Portadown. Obviously, like it's simple things. You know, team bonding, night out, let's go. You know, we get to know the new players, things like that.
Or a bus journey and a few drinks on the way home or something like that.
I like go to the races, something like that. You know, something like that. There's small things that have been taken away from us, obviously. Listen, it is what it is. But as you say, I think a strong dressing room is pivotal in any sort of success. Like, doesn't matter what success that is. That success may be us finishing 6th, which would be unbelievable for Portadown at the minute where we are at. So, as you say, you can sign as many players as you want, but I think, you know, it's signing the right type of player as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm positive about the future. I think the future's bright, and it's definitely in the right hands. Richard, we also have a load of questions here for you, naturally, like, you know, seeing you're at the club for so long. So, first of all, well, it's sort of 2 questions merged into one. The first one's from Davy Campbell, and his is, what was your outstanding memory from your time at Portadown? And then the flip side of that is from Chris Campbell, and his is, what was your worst memory at Portadown?
I suppose the Irish Cup finals, you know, getting into them finals, they were always great days out. Like, I was lucky enough to be there, well, get through the 5 finals. So I always enjoyed them days out. I suppose probably the most euphoric one-off match was away to Riga, and it was the Europa League or UEFA Cup at that time. We went over there and got our first victory for that squad. I think we might have won 30 or 40 years earlier than that against the team, but that was the first like modern day victory that we got in Europe. Over there, and the heat was unbelievable. They had a lot of the ball, and you know, we just sat in. I think there was 9 fans or something. They're sort of cult heroes, them 9 people who came over to the match, and they made a lot of noise. I remember just digging in. I sat deep, and Darren Kelly and Big John at the back was digging everything out, and we just sat and protected them, and unbelievably, Braniff and Kevin Braniff and Big Richard Leckie was causing them all sorts of problems any time we went forward, and happy to get the win. Like, but I remember just being totally out on our feet at the end, like, and going into that dressing room afterwards. Honestly, it was the biggest buzz in a one-off match that I remember. And then we had the downside of them. You have about 2 hours to get your flight, so we couldn't even get out to get celebrating or anything.
And you get a night out?
No, with the flight back about 3 hours after the match, it was unbelievable. And us ready to go mad, like. But we got our next trip to Azerbaijan. They extended it by a couple of days, you know, so that made up for it a wee bit. Yeah, and we actually nearly shocked them as well, which was unbelievable. So the European trips and all was brilliant, just for all the lads. It's, you know, and I think near the end of my career, at the start of the career, them European trips were maybe getting duffed 5-0 here and there. And it was just your bonding session, but near the end of our time there, you know, we were actually competing and, you know, making that strides to get results, which was pleasing as well.
Very good. What about your least favourite memory then at Portadown? Any particular bad ones?
Not really that many bad ones. I suppose just that whole period when we were relegated, you know, when they signed up for the new league and the late application, that whole saga was a bloody nightmare. I happened to get a knee operation at the end of that season, so I missed most of the season in the championship that year. But, you know, we set the club back a wee bit. You know, we had a squad at that time, and, you know, you lose 1 or 2 here and there, and it's obviously financially for the club, it was a tough year. So that was disappointing. I can't say I had too many major disappointments in my time there, like, and, you know, thoroughly enjoyed the 15 or 16 years I was there. Like.
What about the cup final in '99? The shirt you're obviously wearing there. What was that like for the players, being told that the game was off and you're being awarded the trophy?
It was a bit surreal, and I always have my claim to fame. I scored the second in the semis to get us there at that final. So I scored the last goal in the Irish Cup that year. You can't really claim it as the winner of the cup, but
you will claim it.
I always threw that one up to Strainer. He scored the first, and that got us through the semis, and mine was the winner. Like, but it was surreal. We wanted to play as players. We wanted to play. Would have been my first cup final in '99. I think we got there in '99, 2000, 2002. We had a great wee run around that time. I was only a young player and just wanted to get out there and play. Didn't really matter that much about the suspended player, but I think at the time we were maybe, the team that had been successful in the 90s was sort of phasing out. And then all of a sudden, this was a chance to get into Europe. So I don't know if there was anything behind the scenes that the club stood up and said, listen, we need this European place and all, and the money that went with that. So we ended up getting the cup on a Saturday night and we had our celebrations together. Like, it definitely wasn't the same. And that was disappointing, like,
Yeah. No, it must have been very strange indeed. Like, but I suppose it's another medal for you. Do you class it as a proper medal, or just sort of nah?
But that one scored the winner in the semis, eh?
Well, it must have been great then. Whenever you got the win then in 2005 against Larne, because as a fan, the Irish Cup final is always the best day out, unless it's raining and it's at the Oval. We'll not get into that.
Another refereeing decision. That was a brilliant day as well. We had a great team, from winning the league in 2000. So the next 3 or 4 years, we might have came second a couple of times in the league. Underachieved, to be honest. Like, there was wee things went on. Gary Hamilton fell out with Ronnie, and he sort of skulked about for a couple of years when he was really at his top, and could have fired us to more trophies, I believe. But at the same time, we went into the final that day. We had a brilliant day. We had a great group of lads. Vinny was captain. We had a great camaraderie, nights out and all together, and we had a great celebration that night, I think, down at Kay Neil's brother's house. We watched the match all together as a team about 5 in the morning. So we definitely partied after that. It was a great day, and then obviously Neil Ogden put Larne up 1-0 up in the match with a cracker of a strike. But once we got down and we showed a real quality playing the football, and turned out that was a fantastic day for the fans. When you get back to Portadown, we went around all the social clubs and and pubs. The trophy, and that was brilliant, like, to see the fans, how much they meant to them. So it's nice to get the one after getting one handed to you.
You mentioned Darren Kelly there. Neil's a big fan of Darren Kelly. If you could just give him his phone number, he'd probably want to get him on the podcast here at some stage for an old chat. I don't know if Darren's much chat, is he? A good story about Darren, like, might have told it during that first lockdown. We travelled up together. Some great travelling companions over the years. Like, I was coming up from Castlederg for 15 years, and I always had somebody different every few years. We had the Derg boys and McCabe and McCluskey from Enniskillen, and then a couple of the Derry boys, McCafferty and Peter Hutton for a while. So we had, but Darren was a belter. Like, he hadn't the brain, to be honest. They dropped me off after training one night, and they kept reversing towards my car, and the sensors was go beep, beep, beep. As you got closer, all I heard was the beep, 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 bang into the side of my motor. He goes, for flip's sake, Darren, did you not hear the beeps from the car? And he goes, well, I always wondered what that noise was. Flip's sake, couldn't make it up. Unbelievable. Which is unbelievable, like, unbelievable.
Well, that was him, like, but he was what a smashing player, like, and leader at the back, so it was. We had some couple of great years with him on the motor.
There you go, Neil. There you go.
Outstanding. Funny, that was actually going to be my next question here. That was from Alistair Kerr. He asked, who were your driving companions and stuff, the games? That was one half of his question. The other half of his question was, have you got any funny European away trip tales? Give us a Ports preview show exclusive. Come on.
Yeah, I can give you an exclusive right now. This mightn't sound too good for professional athletes, or whatever. At the time, I think it was Malmo, we were playing away, and obviously we arrived a couple of days early, and Ronnie allowed us to go out for a few beers, so that was all right. About 7 o'clock, everybody was back in, and of course get into your beds for training, but that didn't happen. It happened to be that night we got a few drinks to the room, some of the lads, and playing cards. There's Colin Feeney and Hammy, Big Vinny, myself. Kay Neil was there, but he actually was trying to sleep, to be fair to him. But
I like him.
After a wee while, I heard the bloody door opening, And Geordie, he was standing there, Geordie Richardson. I could tell from his eyes, like he didn't. Ronnie had brought him forcefully to open the door. Geordie didn't get a chance to tip us off, so opens the door. Ronnie comes in like a bull. Went round every one of us. Went round every one of us and just read us all up like you've been crap for a couple of seasons, and everybody got a touch. Because they're on the flight home tomorrow morning. But little do we know, before he had just opened the door, I'll not name the name, somebody flicked the cigarette butt in behind Kyle Neal's bed. He's lying sleeping. And Ronnie's coming around taking everybody else, and the smoke's coming up from behind the bed, and he's wafting it like that. Chat about the sweat breaking, like to get Ronnie out of the room. We had to take our oil, and thankfully he didn't send us home right enough. But I always remember that there. It was unbelievable, like how he never caught on to it. And I remember Kyle, like he was panicking in the bed, like it was just one of them moments. You had to be there, probably.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. I love how you say the captain of the team is sitting there, playing cards and having a drink beer as well. What an example to set for the younger players.
He's about the only one that didn't get the higher time of it.
I'm sure he didn't. Absolute belters. Is there, Paddy, obviously Richard's saying there about a few characters in the dressing room there. What's the team spirit like at the minute? Is there any good characters in the dressing room at the minute? Who's the prankster?
At the minute, like currently, there's a few simple boys but Big Colo will probably still be the main instigator of everything, really, like pranks and all. And he's just good crack. As I said, it's been hard. We haven't had one night out this year, like, so it's been difficult. Like, whereas we had a good few last year, like, that probably couldn't mention anything what happened on them nights out on this, like. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get you back on in 15 years and you can spill the beans.
If I had a beer doing this, you've got a few, like, but we're a really good squad, like we do. You've got the likes of Greg, who's the ultimate pro, the experience head, and then you've got some of the young boys who are just simple. You've got the likes of myself who are just floating about in the middle and all. So it's a really, really good mix in the change room at the minute. Lavo as well, one of the more experienced boys now. But as I say, it's a really good. I'm not just saying that, but it is a really good dressing room. And I can't wait to get a proper rattle at a day out or a night out with the boys, like especially all the new boys that have come in, just to try and get to know them that wee bit more.
I thought you were going to say can't wait to get a rattle at one of the Glenavon strikers.
I wish. I'd be sitting watching it with you.
Paddy, you were taking some awful stick the night we were playing Carrick down at Taylor's Avenue. I just noticed that night. But are you a player that thrives on that? Do you enjoy when you're getting heckled from the crowd? I just noticed that because there was about 6 Portadown fans managed to get in that night. I was one of them, and you were getting some flack that night from some of the Carrick fans.
It was a bit harsh, wasn't it?
A couple of times I was looking over my shoulder, being like, "Really, come on."
I don't know where it came from. I played for Carrick obviously for a couple of years, like, but no, I don't mind it. It's a bit of crack. I probably know some of the boys that were giving me the stick as well. But nah, that doesn't bother me at all. Like the Glenavon game, first game of the season, there's 500 fans, and I just heard, I was like, McNally, give me I getting it here, and all you heard was, what was the score in the Celtic Rangers game today? See you next Tuesday. I was laughing, like, so give me a wee lift during the game, but I actually miss it. I was talking to a fella yesterday, and it was just he's a fan. He goes to every game in the Irish League, like, and I was just saying, like, I've never missed getting abused so much in my life, just to get that atmosphere back. But no, it doesn't bother me at all. Like it's actually a bit of crack, to be honest. It's the Irish League. It's what it's about, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah. Hashtag Irish League behaviour.
No.
Richard, what about yourself? Back in the day, would you have? Did you like getting it from the fans? You like giving it back? I can remember a few games that were feisty between Portadown and Glentoran. I remember one in particular. Do you know what? It helped us win the league, because if you hadn't scored that equaliser in the last minute at the over, we wouldn't have won the league in the 2001-2 season.
Around that time,
was some game.
There was a couple of real crackers, 4-3s in the Irish Cup that I remember as well. They were really feisty games, and you just loved them, you know, especially playing centre midfield. Sometimes, you know, you just need to hit somebody to get yourself fired up and get some of your teammates fired up. And we had a few boys that could do that, you know, and there was a fair few red and yellow cards throughout over the years. I remember somebody at the Oval against the Glens, it might have been an Irish Cup semi-final. I think with 2 or 3 sent off. A couple of real tough tackles. I remember hitting Mark Glendinning in a 4-3 at Shamrock that came on. And I hit him in the middle of the park. And honestly, I didn't realise at the time after the match, my shin swelled up. It was massive. Like I was still wearing the shin pad. Honestly, it must have been close to breaking it. And he was like
careful
a
here. Careful here. He's going to come out here with a shin pad again.
He was like a machine and played on, obviously. But then, you know, we went on and won that game. And then I remember we were playing Glenavon at the weekend. And I said to Ronnie, if you make me play here, I'll honestly cry if somebody touches this shin. Never seen anything like it. But Ronnie just says, oh, you'll be all right.
You got a wee injection, did you? A wee horse pill or something?
It wasn't even done any good for that one. Like, it was a bad one. So I think I stayed in the bench the whole time. Thankfully, we were winning, so they didn't call me.
Funny you're saying there about hitting the tackle and obviously playing against the Glens, and not to each. I actually watched it earlier on. You were on the receiving end of a hard tackle from Darren Lockhart, and he got sent off.
That's right.
But then you ended up scoring the equaliser.
That's right. I was late on in the match. I remember if I flicked it around the corner, I just ran onto it and maybe hit it on the outside of my right foot. Took the keeper by surprise because I had it early, and then ran over to the fence. There was a couple of crackers that year. Like, we had a real good side. Obviously, I was only played maybe the second half of that season with Dino and Mickey was playing so well, and I'd got an operation the year before. But you know, I always played my part. Hopefully, you know, that goal that day, and I scored a nice one down Noma that year. But a really good side that year. And I always did enjoy them Glentoran matches. Might have been something to do with Ronnie. I think he had got fired from Glentoran after going on beating the season or whatever. So there always was that wee needle there when you went into and you always knew there was a wee bit more intensity with Ronnie in the changing room before them games, and I think that went on to the pitch and just created a great rivalry for 4 or 5 years. Like, there was unbelievable games against them. Like,
it's still the game that I look out for most there, and fixture list. And no, but you're saying there, Richie, you definitely played your part that season. Some really important goals. You hadn't scored, wouldn't have won the league. I always remember that game because we got bricked after. That was always a personal highlight. It was only a kid and a brick flew right past me. Like, but what else did you have expected up there back in the day? Listen,
better wrap this up now.
I know. Before I go, I better say, don't forget to like and subscribe to the We Are Ports TV YouTube channel and the Spotify. So, check them out. And before we wrap up, just say, listen, fingers crossed for 2 wins, hopefully, in this set of games coming up. And thanks very much.
I ask one last question? This is for everybody. Have you ever seen Glenavon win the league, any of you?
Thankfully not.
No, all right, that's okay.
Definitely not. But listen, Dave, thank you as always. Paddy, thanks very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully you're back soon, and hope the recovery goes really well for you. And Richard, thank you very much as well for coming on board, and we really appreciate you taking the time to speak this. Love that shirt, and hopefully we'll get you on again sometime soon.
No problem. You're welcome. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Let's do it. 6 points. 6 points at the weekend. Let's go.